comfort. Shopping centres? Not so much. They want to keep energy. Yeah, okay. It's a little bit cold, so what? It really depends on the space and what your driving force is.
Again, our algorithm is based on ASHRAE 55. So it considers basically what kind of cloth is worn, what is the temperature, and how well the heat is discharged from the body. So all these things are considered in our base algorithm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I just ask, so what does the future look like for you in terms of integrating with smart appliances, in terms of not only looking at thermal, but other?
Yeah, so the space of IoT, what we find is a lot of buildings don't have accurate sensor information. So we try to plug into the existing network, so there should be some temperature sensor somewhere around here. But we're looking and working with organizations about wireless technology, getting better sort of representations of the space. And so we're working with a lot of devices like that. So sort of Zigbee type infrastructures, those kinds of IoT.
Is there a case where your software actually has control over certain appliances already?
Yeah, well we do in the building, right? So we send set points down to.
I mean, apart from the actual heating and cooling, is there, for example, cooling of fridges or freezers that you use to offset?
So no, we don't do that today. That's obviously an area we can explore because at the end of the day, it's a set point, a value that gets delivered to the device. But yeah, not today. It's predominantly HVAC.
Can I just ask, how many sort of these systems have you installed? And with that, what sort of paybacks are you sort of envisaging out of the systems? I mean, are we talking about 4 year for ROIs or?
So we try to get the payback within a 12 to 18 month period.
Oh, right. Okay.
And it really depends on the team on the ground and how willing they are to cooperate and work with us. And we're looking for a 2-to-1 ratio. So
Pretty
$1
good.
spent, we'll
That's
save
a-
$2.
That's a quick,
And what sort
that's a
of
very
upfront
quick guy.
costs? I'm also interested in the business case.
So upfront costs is really depending on the integration with your building. So if you are BACnet enabled and you don't have the FBI security team, it's not as painful. We can get them pretty cheap. But the higher sort of the integration costs with working, and the bigger it is, right? So we're working with a couple of universities, this one in particular as well, is there are multiple departments. And what we often find is facilities departments aren't really always talking to the IT department, and you come in and there's those sorts of logistical things that need to, that absorb most of the time. So it's not really technical problems, it's really just working with the entities and trying to get new devices into infrastructure.
You doing anything at Barangaroo?
Not at the moment. We've been talking to them about doing sort of load forecasting, so measuring what tomorrow's consumption is going to be and giving them as a report. So we've been talking about things like that because they're pretty on their game up there.
Just wondering, obviously there'd be a financial incentive for companies to engage you and put in your systems.
Correct.
Do you see people with sort of a more environmental focus? Because obviously if they can save, energy, they're also helping in other ways, I guess.
It's split depending on where we are in the world. Different parts have different initiatives. Australia, it's about neighbours, environmental. You see some reasoning around that. States, not so much. It's I need to cut my energy bill. How can you help me? And then some people, I just need tools to help me operate my building better. Can you just be my eyes and ears and tell me what's going on in my building? Can you be that third layer of building support for me? Can I be that 1-800 number I call? Can you take those calls from a comfort complaints from people in the hallways?
Sometimes it's engaged in property valuation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially commercial buildings.
Is it possible, perhaps as a future, for you to extract from the holistic data figures that would allow people to claim a rating?
To do actual neighbours calculation?
Or another rating. I just think that that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's stuff that can happen. Right?
Right.
The data's there, and we're willing to work with people, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to come here and talk to people about opportunities. We have a platform. I think we've got over about, we're servicing about 110 buildings, something like that. And a lot of rich data set. And I'm really keen to go after that solar angle, because I think there's some definite merit with the intelligent management plus the forecasting, solar forecasting.
Is there a lot of competition? Because it seems to me if you're got a payback period of one year, there's should be plenty of financial opportunities for you to take a bit more out down the track.
Yeah. So in terms of competition, everyone says they save energy. They have an energy management platform. But what we find is that they don't close the loop, right? They don't actually send something back to the building and do the work. They still have to have someone send a report to someone and negotiate with them to go fix some set points, change some control strategies, go upgrade some equipment. So in terms of that closed loop, saving energy, we haven't actually found too many people that actually go the whole hog. But it's just all marketing messaging. We need to get our message out there more.
So I mean, when you put it up there as 10,000 saving a month, I mean
That's fantastic.
That is fantastic. But my inclination is to go, oh well, what's that per annum, and what's the net PV of that? So that gets up to $1 million. So which may be more useful in your marketing, but may not be because it brings it into.
So we've had a building in Sydney Hospital that we've saved 800,000 over a 12-month period. And we're going after energy credits for that.
So did you say Sydney Hospital or hospital in Sydney?
A hospital in Sydney. Did I say that right? A hospital in Sydney.
Hospitals use an insane amount of energy.
They do, and they need help managing their energy
Yeah.
because that's a operation cost they do want to reduce.
And very critical to comfort also.
Yes.
Yeah,
So we have to balance really good.
Sure, sure. And essential services.
Yeah.
Are you guys commercially independent from the HVAC supply industry? Are you? I noticed I read a bit about the ASHRAE 55 standard next development, and a lot of the arguments there that the science of climate comfort was, a lot of the ASHRAE is an industry body,
Correct.
and they write their own standards, and lo
So
and behold, traditionally.
We do adhere to them. We do take those into consideration in our modeling. And in terms of industry, we are backed by Siemens and Schneider, are part of our DC partners, so to speak.
Yeah. But the problem with the traditional ASHRAE standard 455 was that they result in more HVAC.
Correct.
More plant, more energy, more equipment, rather than more comfort inside the building.
Correct.
And one of the moves was actually to use a lot more fresh air and natural
Yeah,
ventilation.
eco-cooling and things like that, yep.
Yeah. So does your system enable that?
Yes, it tries to play on those strengths of the building, and that's why we built a lot of these additional tools, the graphs, the timeline, points of parameters, where we can go into the BMS and say, this, your eco-cooling's not turning on when it should be. We need to go figure out why this is not working in these particular parts.
Can you,
Take advantage of those.
yeah, can you use more natural ventilation, for example, instead of forced ventilation and air conditioning, etc.?
Well, yeah, especially on a cold days, like say from June all the way to September, when your ambient temperatures are like 16 to 18 degrees. So what you can do is instead of using your chiller and the chill water plant, we can open up the outside a damper and pull in more fresh air, and we can use that for pre-cooling. And that's one of the way you can really minimize the use of chillers and make sure that the power consumption will be less. But, so these are things what we do using our diagnostic tools to make sure that the main HVAC and BMS system is operating in that way. So the primary energy conservation is from the installed HVAC plant and the BMS system. Yeah, so if that's not working, then we'll advise the client to make the necessary changes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're not putting in sort of feedback control system to it's monitoring it and then working out a different strategy, is it, rather than directly closed loop
Basically, we are into
control,
the zone level, we are not into the hardcore feedback loops and the BMS system. But we have the diagnosis staff to make a report and point out these are the deficiencies in your system.
Yeah, so we sometimes do go down to AHU supplier temperature, supplier pressure, and help monitor those and regulate those more efficiently based on the zone target temperature.
Mm.
It just depends on how the state of the building really, and some buildings they need that, some buildings don't, and we need to be flexible enough to cater for all those sort of conditions.
Are you getting more business out of existing buildings that weren't were designed the old-fashioned way, or are you getting business talking to architects designing new buildings with a?
It's
with
mainly
new approach?
existing buildings.
Yeah.
New buildings is more commissioning and monitoring, helping them sort of set up the parameters and set the right conditions. But the majority of the building is from existing buildings 1 and 2, same energy.
How many, if any, buildings were designed to the ASHRAE 55 standard? That you've been working
I don't know.
with any, or?
So what happens is when you go in a building, a lot of the, they've had BMS protocols and set points and strategies there that are 15 years old. No one's gone in and sort of tuned them and retuned them. So yeah, I wouldn't know how many are still.
Older by the sound of things.
Yeah, I mean, so the oldest building that we've actually controlled is local.
Yeah, ATP local, which is like 100 years old.
Right.
That
Yeah,
BMS
and
system's like, oh.
That's a combination of the blacksmith, the tooling area, some industrial plant, some offices, some convention space. It's really a mixed building, and it's not a well-sealed building. There's a lot of, it's a 100-year-old building, like a lot of leakages, a lot of infiltration. That was one of the worst building. But things that the power consumption was too high, so
We were not saving, I think, total
uh,
billion was around what, 8%?
yeah, it's around 8 to 9%, which is like 30,000 per year. $30,000 per year. That's a big one.
Chaps, I'm going to jump in there. Thank you very much, Adam. We're
Thank
conscious
you.
of time, so I just want to make sure that we've got some time for networking afterwards. All right. So, Adam, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, that concludes